Makati mose muri Zimbabwe kusangana zvekare pano pachivhitivhiti paTV yenyu patinenge tichikupai nyaya nemaleti updates anengachitika munyika yeZimbabwe. Mamiriro zvakaita tikutambira nyaya iri kunzi vatenda Biti vasungwa masikati anhasi. So tisikakupedzere nguva nyaya iyi ine pachivhitivhitiwo pairi kubuda neNewsday Live ndo vari kuuya vachiti Constitutional Defender Forum convener and opposition politician Tenda Biti has been arrested in Mutare on Saturday afternoon. Biti was detained while conducting a door-to-door campaigning in a central business district opposing the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. He is currently being held at Mutare Central Police Station. Those arrested alongside him include journalist Fanuel Chinowaita, Morgan Huve, and lawyer Nyasha Gerald. They were all taken to Mutare Central. Authority have not yet disclosed the reason for the arrest. So zvigananda zviri kutaura by all means kuda kumisa vatenda Biti party kune rimwe nyere kubiri kutaura kuti army generals akabvisa Robert Mugabe vari kutsvagana vari kulingana kuti aiwa regai tibvise chinhu ichi taneta nacho. So tipambira zvakaita muri Zimbabwe vaBiti vari mukati izvozvi.
That thought process. I want to help everyone here in my thought process that Zimbabwe is in a quagmire, and the opposition fucked up the constitution in 2013, and we are paying for it right now with this amendment number 3. I want to stick to the topic. I've been unable to contribute over the past months because I've been just hearing people talk about it, and I never got an opportunity because there were certain people who were always here, and when I want to speak, they would stop me. But I'm here to set the record straight so that everyone is aware of my analysis of this constitution in the most delicate way without taking any sides. The amendment number 3 definitely wants to stretch Mnangagwa's final term from 5 to 7 years without asking the people in a referendum. The opposition left the language, in my view, wide open. They focused, when you ask what was the intent when they drafted the constitution, they were focused on one man only. And they slept on the real structure that was supposed to be done to protect all of us forever. And I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm here to rant because the actual wording in section 328 is crystal clear on paper, but the opposition drafters made it weak enough for ZANU-PF to twist it today. And let me break it down word by word so that you can see exactly where they failed and why this loophole still exists today. And I think Madupu kept saying this constitution left some problems even back then in 2013. I don't know, maybe some of you were young. Sometimes it's like, section 328 is the amendment procedure. It is the firewall. But the opposition helped write it with one obsession: stop Mugabe from running in endless elections. There was their narrow tunnel vision. They never thought about a future leader in the last term, simply lengthening the duration and calling it an election cycle alignment, which is what Ziambi is now asking. They never sealed the door. And let's read the language together, because this is actually the structure they left out. So if you read section 328, subsection 1, it says, in this section, term limit provision means a provision of this constitution which limits the length of time that a person may hold or occupy public office. The word length of time is the killer. It's not just the number of terms, it is the duration. 5 years is a length of time. 7 years is a different length of time. The moment you change 5 years, subsection 995 or a section 143 to 7 years, you are amending the term limit provision under the section and the exact definition that they wrote. But the opposition drafters, Mondrora, the MDC team, the whole COPA crew, never made it crystal clear, right? With extra protection. They thought, well, 2 terms is the max, you know, and they left it at that. Even though then they jumped into Section 91 and they thought, it's enough. So they thought Mugabe was the only threat. They were very wrong because now look at Section 328, subsection 7. This is the anti-incumbent clause. They put it after learning from Mugabe's tricks. It says, notwithstanding any other provision of this section, notwithstanding any other provision of this section, an amendment to a term limit provision, the effect of which is to extend the length of time a person may hold or occupy any public office, does not apply in relation to any person who held or occupied that office immediately before the amendment. You see what I'm saying? So, plain language, no benefit to the sitting president or MPs and zero. And then Mnangagwa cannot get those extra 2 years, but the bills tries to force it anyway with notwithstanding subsection 7, which is 328 subsection 7, clause 4. That is direct defiance to the language. So, you know, to do that legally, you must amend Section 325 to 328 itself and Section 328 subsection 6 and subsection 9, which says the amendment procedure requires 2/3 majority of the referendum and within the 3 months period. So Parliament alone cannot touch it. But unfortunately, the structure to me is airtight on point. But the opposition left the wording loose enough that ZANU PF lawyers can stand up and say, well, we are only changing the cycle, not the term limit. That spin works only because the 2013 team failed to plug the hole. So let me tell you how badly they failed in 2013. The COPAC procedure was a rash compromise because Mugabe was still in power. And the opposition was desperate to get any constitution after 2008, violence and the economic collapse. The focus, like lesser beams on stopping Mugabe from adding any other term and running forever. So Trankrai and his team were just celebrating, like, okay, we got the 2 years and the big victory. So they made it a non-retroactive. So Mugabe could still, you could still run in 2013 and 2018. They said, okay, Mugabe can run and just finish up to 2018. You see, and that was their sellout core. And they never fought the language that said the 5-year term length shall never be extended without a referendum. They never put that. So you dealing with ZANU PF now, they're coming in. And this is why I'm saying this thing, no matter what Ngondora say, no matter what everybody says here, we we fucked up because we have these people. They were not really focused. They were just focused on Mugabe. Mondra was co-chair of COPAC. He helped write this. Today he shouts referendum required. And I wrote this in the constitution. But back then he accepted the compromise that Mugabe can, stretch it up from 2013 to 2018. I mean, why didn't they stop him? They had already been running election after election. And so Mnangagwa feels like, well, he could do one more, at least Mugabe did 20. Why can't he just extend one more? You guys want a referendum, it will be after that. I mean, it's messed up. And I'm just trying to level with you guys so you get it, that we could sign every piece of paper. It's the language when they go to court and go before the judge. You know, the language, they're going to ask the intent of the framers. But what were they trying to do? Why did they do that? What was in their state of mind? And you all know, truthfully in your hearts, the state of mind. Even Mondra says, I am going to be happy for Mugabe to read this signature and he will see this signature. The state of the mind was to stop Mugabe from extending the constitution to run again, to come back and run another election and run another election and run another election and run another election. They never envisioned the extension after 5 years. And we gotta be honest with that. Yes, they try to patch it, but it's not clean. And so nobody's stupid here. First, you need to accept the error, and then you figure out if you want to demand something, then demand it. But this is a losing battle if it goes to court. Maduku knew that the NCA even boycotted the whole process. Maduku said from day one, this constitution was an elite deal that did not go far enough. He warned that the amendment procedure was too weak on power entrenchment. He even campaigned against the referendum in 2013 because he knew that there were some gaps. And today he's getting beaten in office while police watch. And he's still filing court cases saying exactly what he said 12 years ago. Any extension that benefits the incumbent violates 328 subsection 7, and the referendum is needed. But the opposition parties ignored him. They called him extreme. They pushed the draft through. And now Maduku is the one taking the whole blows while the drafters slept on it, complain on radio. This is literal failure I'm talking about here. The language is the crime, okay? Section 328, subsection 1 uses any provision and the length of time. It is so broad on purpose. I think they were selling out, if you ask me, and they were just grandstanding. They're the same people who, first of all, we're called. Mangwana calls Monjora and says, come to KG6, we're going to do a coup. Remember we had those spaces you and I, Scotty, when we brought Monjora. We're going to do a coup. And he was part of it. Okay? He was part of putting Mnangagwa in office. Do not listen to these people. They are all criminals, in my view. They're all selling you out, and you are here, you know, feeling the pressure. What you need to do, blood for blood. They come for you, you come for them. You go to the streets, you demonstrate, and they got guns, they'll shoot. And then you just pray America will say something. And maybe they'll come in and extradite a president there. That's it. Because look at all the countries that oppress people, like Saudi Arabia. No one has ever been able to overcome them. Zeti comes here and tells you, non-violent movement. None of the only country that ever got free was Zimbabwe. We took guns, okay? None of the people in the Middle East, they are all under oppressive regime. China is under oppressive regime. The longer you stay oppressed, the harder it is impossible to ever get out of this, no matter how you look at it. Libya, if you look at Mubarak after the revolution, it worked. That's the one of the examples. Gene Sharp puts in his book, how to you know move non-violent movements. He puts that in his book, okay, and a lot of the 56%. But if you look at it, Libya was getting a lot of foreigners coming there visiting. It had a lot of international people. It's an important country. There were a lot of people playing behind because people like to visit those pyramids. Okay, people like to visit Victoria Falls. There's certain places which are wonders of the world. We're not going to allow the world from enjoying Victoria Falls or the Great Pyramids of Giza. There's certain places that, like Saudi Arabia, it's a desert. They just need oil. If they can, we can get oil. What can we do that nobody wants to really go there? It's hot after all. So people there are oppressed. They're gonna die oppressed unless Trump does what he's doing. Even though he might want oil, but he's still fulfilling the promise America wants. Get rid of dictators so that people can have a right to freedom. You cannot succeed if you do not have freedom of choice, if you don't have freedom of association, if you do not have freedom to start business, if the president's sons comes and says, you know, you can get out of now, I can take over the land. I mean, those are the things when Chinese come and they just take you off your land and they put the Chinese there. You cannot succeed when they take your health care away and they say America is trying to steal information and you come here and support them and you say you hate America and you follow the propaganda of countries that have never invented a single thing. China has never invented anything. All they do is steal America technology.
Sorry,
I mean,
Brian, the host has asked we stick to the topic.
I am sticking to the topic though. It's the same topic I'm still talking about, my dear Madue. So because it's interconnected, it
Yeah.
cannot.
So Divine, if I can ask you two